Welcome to the iNetrepreneur Radio Show. We are so honored to bring you your host, the ultimate celebritypreneur, connecting businesses and celebrities worldwide. Winner of the Networking Organization of the Year, best-selling author, magazine publisher, trainer, and owner and founder of Network Together and the iNetrepreneur Media Network from magazines, TV, and radio network, we're excited to bring you your host, Mr. Robert W. Jones.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. I am in the great state of Arizona, Phoenix, Arizona, that is. And gosh, you know what? We've had a cool wave. Our temperatures are only getting to about 100 degrees right now. So you can't beat that. You know, we're here each and every week on the iNetrepreneur Radio Show. My name is Robert W. Jones. My wife likes to call me the Robert. I'm the owner and founder of the network, and I'm also the creative mind behind the Art of Connection movement, 365 Days of Gratitude Quotes. That's our current book. And you can go to 365daysofgratitude.com to find more information about our book series, which is right behind me here. Again, here I am in sunny, beautiful Arizona. Well, a little bit humid right now, and I just want to welcome each and every one of you to the show today. I want to talk about a little bit of house cleaning things. I always like to say that, start off the show. What's going on in the iNetrepreneur Network community and the Art of Connection community? I wanted to let everyone know we're winding it down. The #1 international book, the series, and the book, 365 Days of Gratitude Quotes, we've sold out of all the reserved pages in the book. Out of the 365 pages, we allot 100 pages for reserved dates. And so they've been long sold out. And so we have random pages in the book. We would love for you to be in it. The book page price is $500 to be an author contributor. And right now we're offering it for $149. And people ask me about the page and, does a page really matter? And I say, absolutely. A page allows you to do something maybe as a first-time author that you haven't done before. Is it easy? In a way, yes. And in a way, no. So it's hard to get, that treasured quote, the thought and question to the reader, to other people. But if you do it, you do take that pause, you will never, ever, ever feel like it wasn't worth it. So I just want you to let you know, we have a few pages left in the 4th book of the Art of Connection series. It's an international bestseller 111 times in 4 countries. And we also won the Collaborative Book of the Year for 2023. Also, love us on Facebook. We're at facebook.com/iNetrepreneur Radio. And that's facebook.com/iNetrepreneur Radio. And I always say, just bookmark us. Then you don't have to worry about spelling it. You spell it once right and you bookmark it from then on. And you can also find us at YouTube. That's youtube.com/iNetrepreneur Radio. Right now, we're going over a little bit of graphic redesign and branding. So you may see this new picture, this new brand of, what my wife says is the Robert across the YouTube channel that we have. Please note that we have 2 magazines. We have the iNetrepreneur Network magazine that comes out quarterly, and also the Contemporary Woman magazine that comes out every 2 months. Both magazines are packed with incredible information. As my wonderful mentor says, Jackie Sicoli, she says they're full of pop rocks that we can all learn by. Also go to ntevents.net. That's ntevents.net. You can find our meetings that are in person and online. You can get to our academy classes, our pop-up events, and of course our upcoming summit. And that is the Art of Connection Virtual Summit coming on September 21st, 2023. It's a Thursday. It's about 5 hours long. And it's going to be a great place for all the Art of Connection authors who are in the book to come together and celebrate. And you know what? If you're interested in finding out what the movement's about, come join us as well. It's open to the community. And right now, everyone can get in without any cost. So we'd love to have you there. And so what I want to do now is get on to our show. I'm really excited to have our speaker today. It's the first time. So first time, but it's not going to be the only time, but it's the first time that I've had our speaker on the show today. And I am blessed to have Wynn Charles on our show today. How are you doing, Wynn?
I'm doing fantastic. Now, you guys, this won't be the last time I can tell already this won't be the last time. And what, as Robin said, you're welcome to find the network meetings in person, online, all over the place. But what I like to say is I make a loud noise when I roll into these meetings, and I'm not kidding. And people go, "What are you doing here?" Because if you look at the size of me, I I am short. I am short but mighty, short
I
but mighty, and people are like, "What are you doing? You have cerebral palsy," which we'll get into in a minute. And I rolled into INET on May 19th, which was the fourth anniversary of my dad dying. And what ended up happening is INET has now changed my life. And I have also met the fabulous Natalie McCrean, who is publishing The Art of Connection. She's also helping me publish my book, my independent book, which will be out in May. So I think you guys need to follow The Art of Connection. Just saying,
yeah,
because Natalie does a fabulous job, and she's slowly but surely working with me, and she's doing everything she can to work with me. And I just think you need to start following the Art of Connection and INET, because we may be small inside on entrepreneurs, but we're mighty. We're mighty. What goes on behind the scenes is powerful stuff. And I quickly discovered INET on Eventbrite. So if you're on Eventbrite and looking for a weekly networking meeting to go to, please check out INET and check out all the amazing stuff we are doing, not only as individuals, but as a powerful group.
yeah. And I want to appreciate you so much for saying all those wonderful things, Win. And I love being able to come out to the chapters. I get to see you. I get to see the other members, and and it's wonderful because it's more than just networking. It's more than just the book series. It's this radio show. It's the events that we have both in person and online. It's our magazines that we have as well, and it's the training that we have. And every member of the INET, they can phone me up and get in contact with me and ask if they can train our community. Absolutely. Knowledge is something that's in this community that's freely given, and connections are too. And that's what I love about you, because you do both. You provide an expansive knowledge, and you are a master connector, something I should put on this tagline going across.
Wow.
Everyone, again, I'm with Win Charles. She's a motivational speaker, a podcaster, a jewelry designer. And Win, I was a jewelry designer as well. So we have to talk about that a little bit. And the owner and founder of Aspenwin. She can be reached at Aspenwin, that's ASPENWIN at gmail.com. Or she's very brave, or you can call her up. Just leave an answer at 970-618-8840. Again, Win, thank you so much for being here today. And being that you haven't been on the show with me before, I always like to start off with just, I want to get to know you a little bit more. I want our listeners to get to know you a little bit more. And so I really always start with the beginning, and part of that beginning is, tell us a little bit about your early childhood, maybe about, your parents, or if you had brothers and sisters, or, what were some of the bright ideas and thoughts that you had as a young kid that you could share with us now?
The bright ideas that I had as a kid. I grew up, I'm just throwing this out there. I'm not an Arizona native. I am certainly not an Arizona native. I grew up in Aspen, Colorado, And there's a reason why I moved to Phoenix, Arizona, which we'll get to in a minute. But I was lucky enough to be mainstreamed um, at a private school. I was lucky enough to be mainstreamed in high school as well. I was lucky enough to obtain a college degree, one college degree, as if one college degree isn't enough. I am working on my second college degree. I'm taking a break because of a move and because of me doing solo entrepreneur stuff that I thought I would add. If I had college on top of it, it would make me insane. And college, as you guys know, is very, 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 very expensive. So it was either stick with studies after my dad died or do a complete transition. And I decided to do a complete transition down to Phoenix, Arizona, and I have loved it ever since. I got an amazing housing opportunity that I couldn't turn down. So therefore, I took that amazing housing opportunity and ran with it, and then am slowly but surely discovering my tribes, and INET being one of my tribes. I mean, I'm out into this house on a daily basis. I try my hardest to make it up to the Scottsdale chapter every single Friday with no fail, except the last two Fridays I couldn't. So I'm hoping that in September I will be able to make it up every single Friday, because what we have going on up there is not only friendships, but amazing stories to tell about business and amazing one on ones too. I mean, if it wasn't for Natalie, I wouldn't be working so hard on my book, slash, have a publishing deal, slash, doing this interview show, slash, being on her interview show too. And so if it wasn't for INET, I wouldn't be doing half the stuff I'm doing. Now, granted, I'm doing stuff online too, but
And what I want to say, Win, is I want to make sure, like, because you're so elegant, and thank you so much for all of the comments and the accolades. I appreciate that so much. But I want to make sure that everyone knows that this show is about you. And, because one of the things that I have to say, and, I've always felt like in certain ways that I've been different in my life. And so in certain ways I've had to work harder because of, I had a speech impediment, I had a lazy eye. I did not live in a diverse community. I always said, like, I was the brownie and everyone, and so I was a little bit of an outlier, but I had an amazing mom. I had an amazing dad too, but my dad came really from that mental state, that mental space. So he didn't really have any, like, what I call like nurturing, but he had a lot of information and education. Whereas my mom, on the other hand, she had great smarts, great academic smarts, and great nurturing. And it really, if it wasn't for her, bringing into me, the support and the inspiration, and quite frankly, the love, I certainly wouldn't be where I'm at today, because I self-shamed, I self-doubted, that there was a little bit of my nature that was like that. Some people are not built that way, and I have a nurturing place in myself, but I was very, very fortunate to have a mom that really supported me, when I did not really feel all that great and comfortable about myself, and with you, I kind of want to know about your life, supportive parents, and what was your background like? Because I like to say, I said, you overcome, you prevailed, you conquered, you do things that other people just don't do. and you go out there and you don't say no, you say yes. And, and you're gracious about it. And you're also grateful for everything that you have. And that's why I want to celebrate you on this show as a business owner, as a woman, as someone who's had a challenge, but none of that stopped you. And that's what I think is remarkable. And that's the story that I want to know.
And so I, like you, Robin, had a very supportive mom. She went to the ends of the earth for me up until 2010. And that's when I decided to go back to school to obtain a journalism degree, which I'm still slowly working on. But I feel like my dad gave me the entrepreneurial spirit. He works as a professional sound mixer for a couple of big names, like let's say Bob Dylan.
Wow.
And but he landed up giving that career up and starting his own company and having that company up until 2010, and then stayed home to help me essentially take care of me. And that's what a lot of people don't know is he closed his company in 2010, tried to go back to work after my mom died, and it ended up being a disaster and a half. And so he decided to retire early, and he ended up taking care of me to his death in 2019. And so he decided to give me, and he's always knew that I was into podcasting, always knew that I was into writing books. That's the entrepreneurial spirit. But I truly get that from my dad, and I truly understand we don't land up having a 9-to-5 job as an entrepreneur. Nope,
No.
that's not the case. It's 24/7, 365, even when you're trying to recover from something. As in back surgery, I'll be having back surgery December 29th. And yeah, so even when I'm in a hospital, I'll probably still be working. And I'm going to try and get back up on my feet as quickly as I can. But being an entrepreneur is something that I wouldn't trade for the world. Doing what I do, I wouldn't trade it for the world, and I love it. And I decided to retire in the midst of a move from education and just be a solo entrepreneur and do my own thing, because I feel like that's easier than handling a full-time job with a disability.
Right. And so, this is something that I appreciate is, you've had a background with both a supportive mom, and a supportive dad. Both of them, put time, effort, and love into you. And, in many ways, I see that you take this love and this inspiration and the support they've given you. And I think that's why you're built the way you are. Because, the first thing that when we started talking, the first words out of your mouth, you were not selling me anything. You know what you were doing? You were saying, hey, Robert, I can help you. Or I hear you tell other people, I can help you do this. You have a unique ability to, instead of saying, hey, I want to sell you something, you go in there and say, look, I understand certain things about business. I'm an expert in some of these certain things. And let's just have a conversation on, maybe where I can fit in and help you. And then we can grow together. And you reminded me of that saying that says, poor people compete where rich people collaborate. And sometimes I feel like, even though we say it, we still seem to, a lot of entrepreneurs just feel like we're in this competitive space. But you have really mastered that word collaboration, which fuels your success. Did you get that internally? Did you get that from a mentor? Was it something that maybe your parents helped fuel in you? But you really have just a very unique perspective on how you view entrepreneurship.
Well, I think it's the way I was raised. I was raised as, okay, you are able-bodied, even though you're trapped in a body that doesn't seem to want to work right. But at the same time, we're going to send you to public school. We're going to send you to a private school, which was not cheap, thank you very much.
Yeah.
And we're going to try and fund the majority of your services, OT, PT, speech, privately, and see how we do. And so what I have come to find out, and what I try to teach people on a daily basis, is it's all about how you grew up, and it's all about what you perceive the world. And yes, we have all mental health challenges. Yes, I'm still, and I admit that publicly. Yes, I became sober in 2019. Yes, I'm still working on my mental health. Every single weekend, it seems like I'm working on my mental health, because that's the only time I have for it. And yes, I do go to counseling. Yes, I work on my mental health, but at the same time, working on your mental health, working on my mental health has brought me a bigger perspective. It's not all about us.
Yeah.
It's not all about you as the individual. It's about the humankind.
And see, and this is where I want to applaud you. As a business owner, we're coming up on break here. But I have a saying that says, what good is personal development if you're not going to use it? And one thing I see in you is, if there's some mental health that you're working on, if there's some physical challenges that you're working on, if there is mobility, transportation, other things, you live your words, and you stretch out, you reach out, and you give out, and that is something that it takes a while to master those things, and you do those things not because you just have the belief that personal development works. Personal development really doesn't work until you apply what you've learned. And I think that you do an outstanding job. Everyone, I just want to make sure that you know that I'm with Wynn Charles. She's a motivational speaker, podcaster, jewelry designer, and the owner and founder of Ask Wynn. She can be reached at Aspen, Colorado, right? Aspenwin at gmail.com. Or again, she's brave enough to have her telephone number on here. It's 970-618-8840. Wynn, I'm going to take a short break, and I'm going to bring you back on after our short commercial. All right, again, I'm with Wynn Charles, a motivational speaker, podcaster, jewelry designer, and owner and founder of Ask Wynn. She can be reached at aspenwin at gmail.com, or she can be called at 970-618-8840. And please text her, pick up the phone, and do a one-to-one with her. I think that she would enjoy that, and I know that you will too. Wynn, we've we've covered, quite a bit of ground, but I'm going to ask you this question, and I see that in your life, you have been a jewelry designer. And, why that sparkles with me is because there's a company in Arizona called Gomo Manufacturing. And I had worked for that company for quite some time, designing necklaces and bracelets. And I also worked at Zales Corporation. So the art of fine jewelry, has been a part of my life for a long time. And I also like to say, I haven't said this in a long time, I'm a horologist. I am a horologist. And people are like, a horologist? What kind of background did you have? And I said, no. You're thinking of the wrong type of a whore. I mean, like horoscope, like, watchmaker and whatnot. And so I'm a trained horologist as well. And so when I saw that on there, I just have to ask, tell me a little bit about your jewelry creation skills.
Well, my jewelry creation skills, I say this jokingly, I used to be a self-taught digital artist. So what I ended up doing is putting my art on jewelry and through Zazzle.com or print on demand. I print on demand companies. So I have actually never had the opportunity to design jewelry other than putting my own artwork on jewelry, and I've been very lucky to make money off of that. I gave that up. I gave my art career up, which I need to start again, and because people love it. And for motivational speaking,
don't discount yourself, Win. I'm going to jump in there. I mean, that is still an art form, being able to do that. And
yeah,
I know, with me, because I was able to make designs, and I was an expert stringer and then trainer. But, to also, implement embellishments on jewelry, I mean, that is a true art in itself. And that's one that I didn't master.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because I gave up the self-taught digital art for writing and for motivational speaking. And I'm coming to find out that if I said, which I have said, I just haven't had time to do it. I have said to people, I will put my art back up. And they go, well, Win, you need to because we love it. And I've been very lucky. But right now, maybe after my books, I'll put my art back up and surprise people with my art. And because I've been very lucky over the years to be a solo entrepreneur. I've been a solo entrepreneur since 2006. I've had a job as well, but solo entrepreneurship has been near and dear to my heart since 2006.
Well, you've also been a teacher,
Yeah.
And teacher was something it appears you did before that you were an entrepreneur. What are some of the things that you learned in teaching that really has helped you in your entrepreneurship journey?
Oh, jeez. How to interact with kids and adults. I mean, you're not just interacting with kids, you're interacting with adults as well. And the funny thing is that teachers don't get paid high enough to interact. They get paid barely enough to put food on the table. They don't get paid high enough to interact with kids, quite frankly. And because I moved from one of the richest municipalities in the country, Aspen, Colorado, to Phoenix, Arizona, and I will never, ever, 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 and I swear, if someone gave me $1 million and said, go teach kids, I would never, ever, ever go back into education.
Wow.
Down here, because down here, I hate to say it, is one of the worst educational states in the country.
Yeah. Yeah. My mom, she was a lifelong teacher. Her PhD was in curriculum and development. And, she always said that, the real equalizer in this world isn't giving things away, it's teaching things away. And the more that people are taught, the more that they can gain knowledge, they can earn their own wisdom. And I always remember that, about my mom. And in some states and in some places, we don't have enough emphasis on education, because education, true education doesn't divide people. True education, unites people. And that, I think that that's one of the things that we need to have more is education that brings in more unity, and enjoyment, and and helps people really internalize their own greatness, so they can do more through the experience. And great teachers do that. They inspire, don't they?
Well, unfortunately, my the place where I was teaching didn't want me to leave. Unfortunately, COVID hit, and then it all went online anyway. And
Hmm.
they had a weak immune system, so they said we would prefer you to stay home. And I was very lucky to get paid up until June, so I had the funding up until June from them. And they know that I'm down here. They know they've come to find out now that I'm down here. But what they don't know is that what my previous job doesn't know is that I'm staying with solo entrepreneurship. People have always asked me to go teach a few kids, motivate a few kids, but I'm like, nope. I'll motivate them, but I won't teach them at all because I know my limits. I know white woman in a wheelchair doesn't do well in the downtown Phoenix rough school district. I know where I stand. I stand for the kids. I stand for teachers, but I won't go into the bellows of downtown Phoenix um, and get myself in trouble in downtown Phoenix just because I'm trying to teach kids. No way.
Right. Yeah. You brought up some other things that about teaching, and I want to go back just a little bit. You came from Aspen, Colorado. I mean, Aspen, Colorado has a great educational system. It's in the zip code that's one of the premier zip codes in the entirety of the United States. I imagine you're alluding to that they place a high value on education for those kids in the community. And coming to Arizona, and living here for a while, and teachers' pay is much less than other states. Our educational scores are much less than other states. And quite frankly, I also think it affects our entrepreneurial ecosystem. We're not training the kids to really get in there, and
No.
without the proper tools. And I just wanted to get your thoughts on that, about those kids that are in the state of Arizona, and maybe what are some things that we could do to kind of help these kids.
Oh, well, first of all, you could put good teachers with a bunch of special ed kids and
Uh-huh.
then shaping them up, because if we don't have compassionate teachers, no, that's not going to help. If the teachers are being burnt out because the parents are fighting the teachers, thinking, oh, my son or daughter needs this, my son or daughter needs that, and the school won't support my son or daughter, yeah, that's a problem because you're not letting the teachers teach. And so that's why so many teachers, in my opinion, are getting burnt out. And all I know schools that have closed because of COVID. And I know teachers, I speak to teachers practically on a daily basis now that have challenges since COVID. because the kids don't want to learn, especially the special ed kids that are on assistive devices, and they don't want to punch in what they're trying to say on the assistive devices. So we need more compassionate teachers to be teaching, and we need parents to quit fighting and parents to be on the team of their child, not only thinking their
Yeah.
child is best since sliced bread, but we also need the parents to understand the teachers are trying to teach.
And it's really funny. It reminds me of another thing. And Donna Sprockametter, she put something there about, teach something away rather to give than give something away. And see, when I think you take this from your teaching and you bring it over to entrepreneurship, and one thing that my mom, again, I'm giving a lot of credit to my mom as she should receive it. And she said, if if the teachers don't care, the students won't care to learn. And and I think that that's the same. Again, if the teachers don't care, the students won't care to learn. And I think in many ways that comes into entrepreneurship. Learning to care through the educational system. Being modeled after teachers who really love being there and they feel appreciated and they're getting edified. That gleams into the students. And if the students are feeling that they can port those feelings away. And as entrepreneurs, I think, sometimes we always want to be able to have, the most innovative product, and we always want to be the most inventive person. And, we always want to be first in the race, but even Warren Buffett says, the greatest companies in the world aren't the ones that are the most inventive. The greatest companies in the world are the companies that care the most. They provide the customer service, and that is that caring aspect. And I think that's something that we can learn as entrepreneurs is, when we're speeding on everything that we do, always leave a little bit of time, for the caring pursuit of entrepreneurship, the follow-up. And follow-up is key. And a little bit more time, not to just get off the phone, but no, you to have that little 5 more minutes at the end. If someone wants to talk a little bit deeper, that you're there for them. Would you agree with that, Win?
Yes, I would. I would. I mean, I can tell you, and I would be a good woman. Told you the stories told me and what with and what people have said to me and about my and about me in general, and just give people 5 minutes. They will appreciate it. It will make the day.
Absolutely, they will. And it's really funny. I know with my kids, it's so different because when I'm out in public, they're like, "Dad, why do you talk to everyone?" Why do you talk to everyone? At school they have to be so closed down, they can't talk, they just have to go from one place to another. It's like
Yeah,
they're they don't have the ability to really have expressive freedom. Like when I was a kid, we had a little bit of expressive freedom, going to school. And it seems like that's
oh, you can't say anything anymore.
yeah, right.
You
and
can't
and
say,
and
that's one thing I will tell you about education, and that's why I left. You can't say anything anymore. I mean, I'm running into a situation at my house, which now the public restrooms have turned into gender friendly bathrooms, and I'm like, what? What? Not my generation. That's not my generation. I'm so used to being an open book that it's not even funny. Whereas people say, "You just said what? When? You just said, yeah, not your generation to be nice to the people that are struggling." I did not say that, but it's not something I grew up with. I grew up with I didn't grow up with this LGBTQ plus, and the list goes on. I am gay. I admit that publicly, but I am also an ally to those who are struggling. So even though I'm gay, even though the gays get a bad rap, I will sit and talk to the dive driver and talk to the cashier at the grocery store if you allow me. I'm always the first one in the room to say this is what's going on. I walked into INET on May 19th, and I remember the speaker talked about insurance, and I raised my hand and said, if you don't have insurance, they were talking about life insurance. And I said, if you don't have insurance now and you have a disability, you'll be able to click within a panel. The next moment, I get a call from someone that heard me say that, and they wanted to invite me to their event for me to speak even more. And so this is what INET is all about. But I am the one that will break the ice in the room, if you allow me.
Yeah, I always appreciate, because you have the freedom of putting input when you always do, and that goes into another place as well. When you walk into a room, my son said, what's the most important thing to have when you walk into a room? It's have a smile, because it lets everyone know that you're open for business.
Yeah,
When
exactly.
you, yeah, and when you walk into the room, what are some things, and when it comes to perspectives, what should we know about when you walk into the room? What should we know, and what are the misconceptions about when you walk into that room that you wish they would just get right out the gate?
the a lot, and this is a misconception generally. A lot of misconceptions when it comes to the disabled is
Mhm.
we're dumber than a box of rocks, and that drives me insane because
I,
will see you will see me in a wheelchair, and you're like, oh, what is she doing here? Now, granted, I know there's nothing to the public, but you're like, okay, woman in a wheelchair. And the first person who met me and greeted me at the door was Dan Cook. And he's like, hello, how are you? I said, Dan, my name is Win. And I shook his hand, and he's like, well, welcome to Harnett Entrepreneurs. And it's interesting because Dan Dan was our chapter one of our chapter leaders, and Dan fortunately, I almost said unfortunately, got a new job and life moves on. But Dan and I still talk to this day, and Dan and I have one of those unique relationships of she's disabled, but I'm not going to treat her as a box. I'm going to listen to what she has to say, even if it goes straight over a person's head. Just listen. And I'm going to say this too. If the has an aide walking behind them, and they typically call it a personal care attendant, aide, personal care attendant, same thing. And don't talk to the aide. Try and talk to the individual. Try and get down on their level. Try,
right.
because I'm in a wheelchair, and I used to have a wheelchair, but not anymore because I got rid of that wheelchair. But I try and get down on their level. Now I'm so used to people standing up above me that I can look up and talk to them. But for those of us with disabilities that don't have the neck control, that can't look up, my suggestion is sit down, grab a chair, and or just kneel on one knee and get down on their level so at least you're eye to eye with the disabled individual.
Wow, I appreciate that. I mean, because it really isn't not necessarily natural for people to really think about it in the terms of how to reciprocate, whether it be greetings and conversation, meetings, etc. And so I'm so glad you brought that up here today because, those little things of understanding mean a great deal more to the person who's receiving them. And I think that's really good. Everyone, I want to make sure that we keep on track with our segments. I'm with Wynn Charles. She's a motivational speaker, podcaster, jewelry designer, and owner and founder of Ask Wynn. She can be reached at aspenwin@gmail.com or call her at 970-618-8840. I mean, this is incredible when you're bringing out a lot of focused thoughts that all of us can learn from. And so, let's keep on this journey in the next segment. And I cannot wait to bring you back in. Hi, everyone. I'm with Wynn Charles. She's a motivational speaker, podcaster, jewelry designer, and owner and founder of Ask Wynn. Serial entrepreneur, definitely. She can be reached at aspenwin@gmail.com or call her. She's brave enough to put it out there, everyone. 970-618-8840. Wynn, again, thank you so much for being on the show today. And, I really would be remiss if we don't start talking about, all the gifts and talents that you do use, and you use a lot. I mean, your podcasting, your speaking, your knowledge of technology, these are just three of the prawns that, I'm amazed by. Your ability to just really captivate people when you speak in a room, not necessarily like an audience or a show. You're just talking about, hey, these are things going on in life, and just having the art of conversation, not just the art of connection, the art of conversation. But but tell us a little bit about podcasting. A lot of us hear podcasting. Everyone needs to podcast, but in a way, for a lot of us, it just feels like you're talking to a mic, and it's just like, is there really someone out there listening? Tell us about podcasting and why should we be doing it, or maybe better yet, why should we be doing it and doing it right?
Well, podcasting is one, you can do it individually. It doesn't take a lot to get a podcast up and running. I mean, I spoke it on what I'm doing, and I had a woman reach out to me and said, I actually had two women reach out to me and said, she said, I have all these recorded episodes. My business coach says not to do a podcast. I said, excuse my French, but I said, bullshit. You need to get your voice out there because podcasting is much easier than YouTube. It's much easier than a one-way content such as Zoom. It's much easier than Facebook video because people can listen to it as they're dropping their kids off, as before they go to work, before they sit down at their desk, during their lunch break, on the job if your job allows it, and you can listen to entrepreneur shows. You can listen to Entrepreneur Network Radio in podcast form. Yes, as soon as we get this book done, Robin and I are threatening to do podcasts now because he sees the work I'm doing and wants my help, which I'm honored by. But podcasting is such a one-on-one intimate thing, and the ROI on podcasting is fabulous.
And when it comes to podcasting, you know, what are a couple of things that make one podcast just really, you know, resonate with people and another podcast not resonate? Is it the production value? Is it the content? Is it, getting the podcast in front of the right people? Is it the length of the show? It just seems like there's so much to podcast. It's like, it can be overwhelming in a way.
Well, what I've learned is be authentic. Be authentic. Don't necessarily be scripted. I have an interview show, but my fan base knows, actually, they don't know by now, but my fan base knows by now. My next episode will be yes, I'm having back surgery. Yes, I will be away for a couple months and while I get back on my feet. But be authentic. People like authenticity. They don't like scripted that's ask a bunch of questions and that's it. They like storytelling. They like how to storytell. They like how it gets intimate and then they can go search you out if they want more information. They can go find you, they can go follow you, they can go figure it out. But a podcast is great RI. And I said, someone, I was listening to someone this morning, and they unfortunately will pivot their brand and end the podcast. I'm like, I just got to know you. Now you're ending the podcast. That is not cool. I will always keep my podcast in some shape, some form, some manner of until the day I can't do it anymore, and then I will have someone help me and to help me do it. And then I always had someone help me, but when I mean help me, I mean all I tease everyone. I tease my fan base. I'll be like Stephen Hawking's blinking with my eyeballs when I can speak in English because I think that podcasting is the best thing since sliced bread. I mean, I I feel like podcasting is more intimate than getting books off Amazon. I'm sorry, people. I am sorry. Podcasting goes before published books. I'm sorry to say that. See, did I just say that publicly? Yes, I did. And a lot of people were saying, "Oh, write the book, then do the podcast." No, do the podcast first. Then, if you have time, write the book.
Yeah, another place that you do well, and I want to make sure that we talk about this just a little bit is, motivational speaking. Really, it's a different form of just putting yourself out there. Being an entrepreneur, what is motivational speaking? Why is that such a passionate part of who you are and what you do?
Because I just like inspiring people. Gee, Bob, you put me on the spot.
Yeah.
But because I like inspiring people, and now that I can get places more easily, I can do things a lot more easier than I did. For those of you that don't know, I was semi housebound in Aspen due to the very pretty white stuff due to the lack of transportation. I think Phoenix has lack of transportation, but they're a lot better than Aspen. At least we don't even have Ubers in Aspen. At least when I step out in my driveway, if I wanted to, I can hail an Uber. So we don't even have Ubers. We don't even, Aspen is just keeping up with the Joneses. And I won't complain about my boots, but I will complain about lack of accessibility in Aspen.
Right.
I will complain about the I won't complain about the fabulous child that I had, but I will complain about the lack of resources in Aspen.
Well, so, you know, I'm going to talk a little bit about your speaking, your motivational speaking a little bit. And this is what I feel from you, each and time that you get a chance to speak, for everyone. And it's just like you take the person, you're like this, look, I can do this. I can do this. You can too.
Yeah,
You can
exactly.
too. Look, if I can get in this,
Yeah,
if I can get from my home to this place or speak on this show or design this
exactly.
program or and
Exactly.
and
Exactly.
that is where I see you go.
Some people are.
Yeah,
Some people
you
are so
so you're
lazy
too
about it.
humble. I'm just telling you, you're too humble. I mean,
I
I love that about you because you're like, look, I I admit I got challenges. I
yeah,
admit that I have to it takes me sometimes 2 or 3 times the effort of someone else, but look,
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
doing this. And I think that you don't do that to shame people. I think what you do is you wake them up to become grateful of who they are and what they have. And what you're doing is that's where the inspiration comes in. When so I'm going to answer this question for you, okay?
yeah. Go
and
ahead.
and you do a great job of that for people.
Go ahead. No, when diode drops me off, particularly on iNet, they get so confused as to where I'm going. And I have to tell them, look, it's other X, Y, and Z. But it's like, are you sure you want to go here? Are you sure? And I'm like, yes, I can do this myself. Are you sure you want to do this? And it's like, come on, people, come on. And then you guys show up, and then we all have a great time. But it's like, I walk into the room and I make a loud noise and I wake people up a little bit. That I unfortunately came from the mentality of hiding the disabled. And now that I've moved to Phoenix, Arizona, I'm breaking that mode of hiding the disabled at home. And unfortunately, I was born in the put these kids in institutions they will never function. And so my parents broke that mold by tenfold, and I'm still breaking that mold by a tenfold. I mean, when people see me roll into these odd places, the grocery store, they look at me
Mhm.
like you're actually in a grocery store getting your food.
And like, why not?
Yeah,
It,
why
it
not?
really is why not.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
So it's interesting how people perceive.
and then lastly, before we're coming to the end of the show, and like I said, I've gotten to learn so much about you today, Win. I feel very honored with that. And so kind of like the next year, the next 2 years, or even the next moments, what's next for Win? Win, ask Win, what's next for Win? And tell us about how people can get a hold of you, in addition to what I scroll across the screen.
Well, people can go to my website, which is askwin.weebeliefs.com. That's being redesigned by Dan Carew. And that's being redesigned into a beautiful website. Thank you, Dan. But um, I people can also find my books on Amazon. And what's next for me is I'm starting to let this cat out of the bag. Is that I am a um, triathlete,
Oh,
and
wow.
how I do is triathlons is that someone pulls me in a kayak and someone puts me behind their bike and we roll out that way and then I get put in the racing chair and do the run that way. And I am actually doing a half Ironman before back surgery, believe it or not, in Haines City, Florida, in order to qualify for Kona after Kona, Hawaii, Ironman. Yes, I did that once already. I'm coming back as my victory lap, and then I will come back as a victory lap, and then that will change my life forever. And so hopefully I will be able to pull this half Ironman off, have back surgery, be stable on my feet enough to then do the Ironman in 2024.
Amazing win. Like I said, shake those shoulders of those people out there and just keep saying that I'm doing it and you're going to do it with me.
Yep, exactly.
Again, Wynn, thank you so much for being on the show today. I appreciate you so much. Like I said, this is the first time for us to, I had to create a whole show for us to get together and talk this long. This is great, isn't it?
Yeah, you had to do the whole show to go.
Yep, absolutely. So,
but I appreciate you having me on, and I appreciate what iNet is doing for all of us.
Well, thank you so much, Wynn. Again, Wynn Charles, motivational speaker, podcaster, jewelry designer, and the owner and founder of Aspenwin. She can be reached at aspenwin@gmail.com or call her at 970-618-8840. Again, Wynn, thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thank you.
All right, everyone. Again, that was Wynn Charles. And I just want to remind everyone that the iEntrepreneur Network meets almost every Thursday. I know that we have other special events sometimes that, happen on Thursday, but we're Arizona time, where those crazy Mavericks, we're on PT right now, 2:30 to 3:30 each and every week. I just want to thank everyone that came on to greet us on the show today, and certainly our guest today, Wynn Charles. Wynn, thank you so much again for being on the show. I appreciate you.
You've been watching the iEntrepreneur Show, a production of the iEntrepreneur Radio Network, with host Robert W. Jones. Join Robert each week as he visits with new and exciting guests who inspire, teach, and mentor entrepreneurs worldwide. Follow Robert each Thursday at 1:30 p.m. Pacific, 4:30 p.m. Eastern, and 8:30 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time.